What's going on, folks? It's Felix from Bars and Cigars ATL, and as you know, we're in the midst of Black History Month, so I had to get my hands on a Black-owned cigar. As we do every year, we want to highlight Black-owned spirits, Black-owned cigars, Black-owned lounges. So today, I'm lighting up the Black Star line, Meadowood, and this is their latest release. Actually, it was premiered at PCA last year. And I sat down with the owner of Black Star Line to give me a little bit of details about this. But the Meadowood, as you can see on the band, it has MLK's name right there on it, or initials right there on it. And this is an ode to young MLK. So the history of MLK is actually before he got to Atlanta, before he went to Morehouse, before all those things that we know and love him for, he actually worked in the tobacco field. So this cigar is an ode to him and early years of MLK before he became the preacher, the world-renowned peacemaker that we love today. He was a tobacco guy. He was a brother of the leaf, right? So let's say that. And this cigar is special. I really think that because of the construct of this cigar, it really is an ode to him. So let's talk about it. The wrapper is Dominican Criollo 99. The binder is Dominican. However, the filler, you got tobacco from all over. You have a blend of Peru, Brazil, United States, Nicaraguan, and Dominican cigar. So as the peacemaker and the unifier of which MLK was, this cigar also is a unifier and highlights all the tobaccos that we know and love today. So let's get into it. Let's not waste any time. Let's give it a cut. Let's light it up and see what the Meadowood MLK from Black Star Line is all about. All right. So I got the cigar lit and I'm getting it nice and burning and just letting the oils release. But let me tell you a little bit about the cigar before we get into the actual flavor profiles. So as I told you before at the start, that this one is made up of tobacco from all over. But if you think about the history of Martin Luther King, he's a unifier. He did not want to separate by race lines, by religion, by any other class system that we know today. And unfortunately, I think this is a good time to talk about the legacy that Martin Luther King, MLK, has left behind. And the cigar represents that by using tobacco as a vehicle to highlight how things that may be from different places, different parts of the world, different upbringing, can come together and make a melody of beautiful things, of beautiful flavors, profiles. So, not to get political, but let's talk about how this cigar is just a manifestation and a representation of what we aim to do and have in society today. And that's what MLK was all about. So, again, I got it lit up. We're going to smoke through the first third. We're going to talk more about the flavor profile and really talk cigar stuff. So, all right, guys, that's my little rant about it. But Black Star Line, I acknowledge you for acknowledging MLK and his young history out in the tobacco fields, and that he was a brother of the leaf, right? He was a BOTL. All right, so let's celebrate that alone, and then let's continue to smoke. All right. Catch me in a few. All right, guys. So we are well into the first third, as you can see. Great ash, great construction. And that's really what I want to highlight on this first third is the construction of the cigar. I forget exactly who they source their tobacco from, but however, this is premium tobacco through and through. The way it's constructed, the way it's aged, the way it's put together, love everything about the smoking experience, right? So we often talk about flavors, but let's also highlight smoking experience. When you don't have to relight, when you don't have to, ash every time the ash is not falling off, or there's not a correction on the burn, it's not wavering. This is a full 360, burning great and excellent, I would say. So as far as the flavor, at the start, it's a mix of breadiness and spice. So I think because they use tobaccos from quite a few places, you're going to get quite a few things. So the Dominican really shines through with that Dominican wrapper leaf, the Criollo 99, the Dominican wrapper Also Dominicans in the filler, but also in that filler you have Peruvian, USA, you got Nicaraguan. So I think all of that is adding layers to that front note that I'm getting in this first third. So the breadiness is pronounced. And then there's white pepper. There's black pepper. Just a touch of black pepper. White pepper. There's some nuttiness in there. So I'm going to get a nuttiness to the Dominican filler and maybe the Corojo wrapper. The spice is going to come from that Nicaraguan tobacco in here. Brazilian is going to add maybe a little bit of spice and woodiness that you get from here. You get the flavors early on in this cigar. So I'm interested in seeing how it transitions as you smoke. Do you get more of one note versus the other, more one region versus the other region? That's really interesting. However, but I can say on the first third, we're talking about the construction, the smoke output has been great. The ventilation is awesome. Again, this has been sitting since PCA of last year. So basically almost a full year. Good smoke, but really nice, I really say. So if you are someone who likes an array of flavors, I think this cigar is one that you really should definitely try. I didn't see a lot of publicity about it, a lot of pub or anything like that, but this is definitely one that I think satisfies a lot of palates early on. So we'll talk about the body and strength as we smoke on and see how it opens up. But stay with me, all right? 2, 1. All right, guys. As you can see, I'm pretty much at the halfway point, I think, of this cigar. Still burning good, still great smoke output, great construction. I want to talk about the transitions of the flavor on this one here. We talked about how early on you kind of get in a little bit of everything, right? However, the flavor is starting to lean more towards, I would say, maybe the Dominican side of things. It's very creamy. However, it's very nutty. So maybe that's a mix of the Brazilian and the Dominican really shining right here in this transition. But what I'm getting here is what I would say maybe more of a chestnut, right? So there's a little bit of woodiness. You still get that white pepper and black pepper. So you're getting a mix of the two there. But this profile seems very approachable. That creaminess and that breadiness is still there. So the Dominican is still highlighting itself with that Corojo 99 wrapper and the Dominican binder. So heavy on the Dominican there, that's going to give you that creaminess, that breadiness. But I think the Brazilian is starting to show, and maybe a little bit of the Peruvian tobacco as well. I'm not getting a lot of spice, but there's an undertone of it, right? So it does have some Nicaraguan and some United States. I wonder if they use the United States broadleaf, which expectingly will give you more spice. It's known for its kind of spice and earthiness and kind of heavier notes. However, I'm not getting a lot of that. So I wonder how much of the percentage of that filler makeup is United States broadleaf maybe, or the Nicaraguan as well. So again, very comfortable smoke. I think that anybody will approach, whether you're starting off, whether you're in the early afternoon having a coffee, whether you just finished up with a heavy lunch. I think this cigar still gives you a lot of everything, that you can find something that you like in it. Again, I'm going to continue to smoke through this. I'll come back right when I take off the band. Black Star line, you continue to have great quality items or characteristics of your cigar that I really like. So I'm going to continue to smoke this, guys, but stay with me and we'll come back at the final third. All right. One. All right, guys, we are in the final third. As you can see, I took the band off. We're down to the nub, and I can tell you the transition here is more intensified on that sweet note that we finished up on the second third. So I said it was coming in. However, it's really pronounced here. So you have a duality here as well on the final third. You have sweetness, and then you still have that spice. This cigar has a nice sugary sweetness on the finish. On the back end of the final third, it's brown sugar, it's char, but it's also just a nice spice with it. So you have both sides of it. You have the spice, you have the sweetness, The construction has been great throughout, but I really love the combination or the duality of the smoke, where you got the sweetness and then that spice here. This Meadowood has been a great illustration of what a combination of multiple tobaccos can be. So you got the Peruvian, you got the Brazilian, you got the United States, you got the Dominican, you got the Nicaraguan. You don't get necessarily any overpowering of either one, but you get a beautiful combination of all 5 tobaccos in this final third that is really good. I'm really enjoying the smoke. This is a beautiful cigar that really highlights what MLK was, right? A unifier of people. However, this cigar is a unifier of flavors, right? And listen, again, I said this premiered in PCA of last year, and I'm just now lighting it up. So it's sat in my humidor. The flavors are melded together. I can't wait to see what Black Star Line is releasing in this year's PCA. Hopefully they got something new for us, but this Meadowood is amazing. It's a good smoke. I want to see it in more humidors and really get your hands on the Meadowood. This is probably my first or second favorite out of the Black Star Line lineup, but they have a plethora of cigars that you really need to get your hands on. And hopefully you guys click subscribe, continue to like and follow Bars and Cigars and PLE, so you'll be abreast of all the new cigars that's coming out. But this is a good cigar that you need to get your hands on. This is the Meadowood from Black Star Line. All right, light up your life.